Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome inside the Fan Cave. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. 7 nights a week, we are here at your service talking sports at 412-575-2600. Give us a shout on that, or you can also tweet at KD Pomp, at the Pony Express. Andrew Fillipponi up at 93.7. The Fan, on a night where the Duke Blue Devils are applying a beatdown to Pitt right now. It is 66-33. They're up 33.
I picked Pitt, Bob.
Well,
have I lost my mind?
You have. I would have told you easily.
What
this was a
that?
line of 5.5.
That was one of the worst picks
I put it down on Duke
made.
As soon as I saw it. It was an easy bet, Andrew. Kyle Filipowski is just too good. They got guards that can play.
Well, I could have used that text, Bob. Why didn't I get a message from you? Take the tweet down. Delete the tweet.
Well,
Get rid of it.
Honestly, I didn't
Act
see
like
it.
it never happened.
I didn't see it. You got to watch those things.
Thanks, Bob.
Pitt
I appreciate
against
that, Bob.
the elite teams.
You don't care about what I say on Twitter. I see your tweets about Eric Spoelstra's contract extension. You can't give me a heads up when you think Duke is going to blow out
honestly.
Pitt.
I would have told you you're nuts. I don't do that. Anyway, Duke, the separation between Duke and Pitt remains large. The separation between Duke and the elite teams in the ACC remains large. I thought the Panthers were going to have a pretty good start to the regular season in the conference after their preseason, but it's just not been there. And quite frankly, it seems like when they go down early, they're all looking at each other like trying to figure out who's going to look to Blake Hinson, have him shoot. They stop working. The beauty of Duke watching them tonight so far has been their ball movement. They move without the ball, they quick pass, they create openings, and when they get them, they make them.
Bob, it's now the second week of January. Pitt still doesn't have a good win. Last year, they had beaten North Carolina at home. They had beaten Virginia. They had gone to NC State and won. They had gone to Syracuse and won. They had already accumulated wins that were resume-building wins. This team has nothing close to that. Going and winning the backyard brawl, that team stinks. They're 5-10 on the year. Sorry, Adam Crowley and all the West Virginia fans. My wife, too, may be watching right now, who are West Virginia alums. That team stinks. Pathetic. Their non-conference was really unimpressive. They beat Oregon State, the worst team in the Pac-12 in New York City. They lost to Florida, so they never got a game against Baylor, a really good team. They loaded up on cupcakes at home in November and December. They don't play Duquesne anymore. I mean, it's the opposite of what it was last year, where this team looked like it was building towards something. Now I feel like they'll be lucky to go 500 in ACC play, and Bob, that's not what it used to mean. I mean, back in the day, you win 19, 20 games in the Big East or the ACC, you might be a bubble team. Not in this ACC, where there's only a few ranked teams, right? Yeah. You've got Duke, North Carolina, maybe Clemson, and that's it.
Good. That's about it, yep.
And they lost to them at home already.
Yeah, all three of those have been losses, and this one will be one of them. The thing about Pitt, if they don't shoot well, they don't have much of an inside game. They got guys like Federico
right.
who can go up, but they're not going to win those battles with guys like Filipowski and others, some of the big men that you see in the ACC. All right, so we'll find out what they do in the remaining 10 minutes of the game, but you're not going to overcome a 33-point deficit. Meanwhile, I got to talk about Vancouver, the Canucks, because they're coming to town on Thursday, and they're winning again tonight. I didn't see the final score, but they were leading the Islanders after they won last night and beat the Rangers. They're coming to Pittsburgh with a whole bunch of ex-Pittsburgh Penguins, including Rick Tocchet, of course, is their head coach. That team is a very good team. Jim Rutherford's done a very good job. A lot of talent. Casey DeSmith, I would imagine, maybe in goal in this game. I didn't see if he was in there tonight. But that's a pretty good story in the NHL Western Conference.
Bob, what if I told you that I bet the Vancouver Canucks to win the Stanley Cup before the season started?
Smart.
Would that make up?
What are the odds?
Would that make up for my Pitt debacle?
Yeah, what are the odds?
Very long odds. I think they were between 30 and 40 to 1 to win the Stanley Cup. Feel very good about that bet. Rick Tocchet, I have immense respect for him. Assistant coach for the Penguins for those 2 Stanley Cup wins with Mike Sullivan. He was a Phil Kessel whisperer. They have brought in some ex-Penguins. Teddy Bluger is there after winning a Stanley Cup last year with the Vegas Golden Knights.
Another one.
Sam Lafferty, JT Miller as a local guy. We count him East Palestine, Ohio, Bob. Is that a Pittsburgh guy? Is that another state?
He wanted to play with the Penguins. He wanted to play with, and Rutherford gave him a nice deal. So,
do they get us in East Palestine, Ohio, or do we have viewers in East Palestine watching us tonight?
Do
they pick up our show?
I'm sure they do.
Well,
yeah.
Tip of the cap to them. Thank you for tuning in. But yeah, it's a cute story. We'll see if it's sustainable. They're in first place. Penguins, hey, great win last night. We talked about it on the Monday night edition of the show. They got to stack wins here because the trade deadline's approaching, the midway point. That's when Kyle Dubas said he would evaluate this team. And they're still on the outside looking in. Record-wise, they're a lot like last year's team, Bob, just in the middle of the pack in the NHL. Although I think, for my opinion, they've passed my eye test more this year than they did at this time last season, just me personally.
Yeah, and they have one big question. We're going to go to break here, and I'll ask you this one. How do you sign Jake Guentzel? There have been some deals done. Guys like Nylander in Toronto averaging almost $11 million a year based on some of these deals. How much does Jake Guentzel want? How much will he take? And what do they have to do to facilitate it? We'll get into that and more. Your calls are welcome at 412-575-2600. The Steelers made it official. No TJ Watt. How do they beat the Bills? We'll get into all this and more as we continue right here live. KDKA Plus and 93.7 The Fan. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. All right, this is our GMC Sierra tweet of the night, and it's from the Steelers. And look at this. Isaac Seumalo did not allow a sack all season, 551 pass blocking snaps. He has been one of the keepers, especially when it comes to pooling. He's very good at it. James Daniels has done that. They've used Washington, the tight end. They're getting a lot of good production on their offensive line. And so, Pony, I think that's going to be one of the keys to this game Sunday, and that would be if their offense can stay on the field long enough to keep Buffalo off the field long enough, because Josh Allen has that ability to make things happen. He can make turnovers, sure, but, man, he can forget about them and come back and just erase all of that with some bigger plays. But if that offensive line, that run game is really something that can carry them, I think it's going to make a big difference on what will be a wild weather day in Buffalo.
Do we have confirmation on that? Is Mary Hours or Ray Petlin giving us an update on what it's going to look like there, Bob? Is that for sure going to be a bad weather day? It was 70-mile-per-hour winds there at Buffalo today. My uncle's house almost blew away like it was a scene out of the Wizard of Oz opening act with Dorothy going to Oz with tornadoes there. He said it was so bad. Is that we got bad weather there still?
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to Ray earlier, and he said that there's going to be precipitation. Lake effect is hard to try to track this early in the week, but you can bet it's going to be windy, and if there is precipitation, there could be some accumulation. At this point, it's too early to tell, and that I sound actually like a weather forecaster with my delivery, really. I was happy about that. Anyway, let's get back to Jake Guentzel. I want to ask you about his contract, because I see some of these deals going on, and they're in double digits for guys who don't have as many goals as he does on a regular basis. What do they do, and how do they fit him in, knowing they have so many high-end contracts at this point, or do they get to a point where they just say, well, we can't do it, we may trade him, or, you know, just wait until the offseason and see what happens. But I hate to go that far because he may decide to go elsewhere.
Bob, I mean, they've already gone down this road. They're pot committed to winning right now. And so you're going to have to do some salary cap gymnastics to keep him. I don't see how they subtract Jake Guentzel and turn into a better team. Now, if they were to trade him, if it were like a James Neal deal and you got a different type of player back, maybe not a prolific goal scorer, a la the Hornquist deal, that's one thing, but who's going to make that trade with them in the next couple of months? That seems like the time to do that would have been this offseason. So I think they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place here. Guentzel has all the leverage because he's close to the finish line. And you're right, given his age, late 20s, and goal-scoring production and demand for that, I think he's going to get a ton of money. I think you're right. $10 million plus in the offseason per year. And I don't see how they fit that with the Carlson deal and Sidney Crosby. Hey, Sid's contract is coming up soon, Bob. Yeah. That's another thing. He's got, 2 years left on that? I mean,
plus, you just gave Russ and Raquel big numbers. You know, all these guys
you
are
kept
making
Jarry
north of
around.
$5
You
million.
paid him.
Yeah, I just.
You paid Tristan Jarry.
Yeah, but $5 million I don't have a problem with for a starting goaltender. I really don't. And I think he's been good. I think Nedeljkovic has been a little bit better, but it's good to have two of them. I don't think that's been their problem at all so far. If they've had problems, it's their power play, believe it or not, with all the money they've invested into it. But they're going to have to figure out something here because it's going to take a whole bunch of money. Sidney Crosby loves to have him on the wing. He's a very smart player. He scores 40 goals annually. There's just a lot to like about that. All right, I want to get back to the Steelers and talking about no TJ Watt, which means you're going to have to be creative what you do. They're going to bring back most likely Minkah Fitzpatrick this week. KZ is back after a suspension. Peterson may move back to corner. They got Eric Rowe, who they didn't expect to have this much contribution from. So how do they stop, Josh Allen, knowing that he's going to target, I believe, those two tight ends? I think both of them are going to be targeted pretty heavily in this game.
Three things. Mother Nature, you guys talked about it. You have the forecast, so hope for bad weather. Hope that the offense is the best defense, that it keeps Josh Allen on the sidelines. And then just hope Josh Allen screws up, which he does sometimes. First game of the year, Jordan Whitehead had 3 interceptions against Josh Allen. That's why the Jets beat the Bills in week 1 after Aaron Rodgers got hurt. So stuff like that. I mean, I don't really, Bob, I've got a very bad feeling about this game. Double-digit underdogs in the playoffs have just historically been, as you would expect, terrible. I believe, you're going to have to fact-check me on this, but I believe if the Steelers were to win this game, it would be their biggest postseason upset ever. They're a bigger underdog on Sunday than they were in Indianapolis when they beat Peyton Manning and the Colts in 05.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So, yes, so I'm very concerned about this matchup. Everybody says the Steelers are hot. Well, then what does that make the Bills, who have won 5 in a row, when the Steelers have lost 3? And I heard Mike Tomlin talk about the playoff mode his team has been in. Well, the Bills have been in a playoff mode for 2 extra weeks. So I don't feel great, Bob. I wish I felt better. Can you cheer me up? I really need it right now. I don't really have a great feel for this game at the moment.
Well, all I can tell you is if they don't make a mistake, I got a feeling Buffalo may make a mistake or two. And just as you cited in that Jets game, that's all it would take. The problem Miami had, they got a couple of those interceptions, but they didn't make them into points, and they also have too many injuries. I've seen they brought in a bunch of pass rushers now. They're going to Kansas City. That's probably the best thing that Kansas City's offense has going for it, is that you have a Miami defense that's coming in. It's not only not very good right now, but also very hurt. You may see Patrick Mahomes have a great game in this one.
Even the weather thing, okay, even if the weather's bad, so now Josh Allen, you would think, turns into more of a runner. That's not a good thing.
That may be
only
worse.
One guy in the only one guy in the NFL this season had more rushing touchdowns than Josh Allen.
Jalen Hurts.
Raheem Mostert in Miami. No,
you're talking about
Hurts had the same number.
Backs, yeah.
Just everybody included. Add them all up. Running backs, quarterbacks, wide receivers, doesn't matter. Only one dude had more rushing touchdowns.
McCaffrey had 21 total.
But only 14 rushing. So he's great on the ground. It's 4.7 yards per carry. It's a tough play to stop because he's so big and athletic. I mean, he really reminds me of Roethlisberger in his prime, in his early years, when he was so hard to bring down and he could run. And this guy doesn't just run around in the pocket to throw the ball downfield. He'll take off and he'll run for first downs like he did against Miami on Sunday night. Yeah, James Cook on top of that, who was very good in the second half of the season. Bob, both of these teams fired their offensive coordinators midseason, and to be honest with you, I think both teams would have missed the playoffs if not for those decisions to can Matt Canada here in Pittsburgh, obviously, and then who was it in Buffalo? Ken Dorsey.
And
the old Miami Hurricanes quarterback.
Yes, Joe Brady, who has William & Mary ties, and Mike Tomlin knows him very well. He's done a good job over there. Let's go to the Lions. We got
Matt Canada got fired at LSU and got replaced by Joe Brady. How about the irony of that, Bob?
That is pretty amazing. Let's go to Nick in California. Hey, Nick.
Hey, Nick.
Rich in California.
Hello, Rich.
Hey, how are you guys? Happy New Year.
You too.
You too.
Hey, got a question for you. So, Mason Rudolph starting this week. If somehow the Steelers find a way to win this game, but he struggles mightily, is there any way you think they turn back to Pickett this year, or do you think they're going to ride Mason?
I think they would. I mean, on the depth chart, it still has Kenny Pickett listed as number 1. I don't know. It's weird how this has gone because I think Mason Rudolph has exceeded all expectations. I would imagine even Mike Tomlin's, and yet he gives them. He's not overly complimentary.
I agree, Bob.
And I wonder about that because. Remember when he was asked about Kenny Pickett and look how terrible those first starts? He immediately came back with, "Well, what is it in the fourth quarter? Do you remember that? How's he doing in his, whatever?" You don't necessarily hear that. And I'm more impressed with what Mason has done given 2 years of inactivity.
Bob, I thought that was a good job at the press conference today. You obviously worked that here on KDK Plus at the end. that no. I thought that was a sign that Mike Tomlin is doing, this is my spin on it, Mike Tomlin's doing with his quarterbacks, what the Penguins are doing with their goalies right now. Mike Sullivan doesn't actually believe that Nedeljkovic is better than Jari, but he's playing him more right now because he's performing better at the moment. Mm-hmm. And I think Tomlin feels the same way about Rudolph compared to Pickett. I don't think Mike Tomlin wants to say anything that makes it seem like he believes Mason Rudolph is a better quarterback than Kenny Pickett. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think he's riding right, just like you said. He's hot, and why would you make a change when a guy's playing at this level right now? You can always. But
I don't think he actually believes that Rudolph long-term will be better than Pickett. I don't think he feels that way.
He may sound that way. I don't know for sure, but he certainly sounds as if he's a little apprehensive. And we got to go to break on that note.
Yes.
Andrew, we'll take it. Come back with more right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call right after this. Thank goodness the temperature wasn't 10 degrees lower than it was, because we would have had 15 inches of snow on the ground. Ken Rice is manning the, I was going to say the salt mines over there, if you need be, but you're doing this news tonight. Is wintry weather still in the mix?
Yes, indeed, Bob. I have no salt, just news. Our First Alert Weather team is tracking more wintry weather coming. Also, we're looking at whether you can track down a Mason Rudolph jersey in time for Sunday's Steeler game. Coming up at 11, Bob. You'll find that interesting, I know.
I'm sure we will. Maybe they're out of stock the way things are going.
I will say it's a challenge to get one.
It's a challenge to get one. See, that's your tease. All right, Ken, thanks very much. All right, Eric Spoelstra. Now, you saw that. I like that guy. I think he's very good, Andrew. You follow the NBA. I think Popovich, I think the game has passed him by, in my opinion. He's had a great career, but I see nothing. And I know Wembanyama is going to be a good player, but, man, they stink, and they've stunk for a while. Your thoughts on Spoelstra, $15 million a year?
NBA coaches don't make that kind of money. You're right, him and Pops. So I give him credit. He gets more out of less, which is what you ask out of most coaches. And Mike Vrabel getting canned today, Bob, that was a mistake by the Titans. That is a very good coach who was shown the door there in Nashville.
New England bound? Maybe. We'll see.
How about Ohio State?
I don't think that'll happen. Maybe it will. I don't know. It's unbelievable coaching and the changes that happen. Pony, thanks very much. Appreciate it as always. And go Vancouver. Not Thursday, but go for Vancouver for Pony. Good night.